Shadow the Hedgehog. Why does that name haunt me?
Welcome to Mojo Plays, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 video games with the wrong rating. For this list, we'll be going over the video games whose ESRB rating does not match its content, either because it's too high or too low. If there's a game you think needs re-rating, please give your own grades in the comments.
Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Portal.
Keep in mind that although fun and learning are the primary goals of all enrichment center activities, serious injuries may occur.
Portal is a simple and straightforward landmark of a puzzle game, in which a malevolent AI named GLaDOS puts you through a series of tests involving using a portal gun to solve various problems. While there are gun turrets and some blood effects if you get hit by them or other obstacles, that's hardly worth the T rating that Portal has. Granted, GLaDOS has a dark sense of humor, but kids are exposed to much harsher content elsewhere, even back when the game was first released. Its rating, much like the cake, is a lie. "99 Nights." This is a hack and slash game in which you take on hordes of enemies in a ripoff of, in the vein of, Dynasty Warriors. 99 Nights has roughly the same level of violence as its inspiration. However, while most Dynasty Warriors games are rated T for teen, 99 Nights got slapped with an M for mature. While there are a few risque outfits, some impalement, and there are some moments where you kill civilians, the vast majority of gameplay is no more violent than the games that they're imitating. And wading through huge armies in an over-the-top way is something teens can definitely handle. Batman Arkham Knight.
Miss me?
The Batman Arkham games are quite dark in general and are some of the most mature Batman stories out there. Even so, M is a bit too high for the degree of content involved. Most of the violence is Batman beating up bad guys, and there are similar superhero games with similar combat systems, which are rated T. We'll grant that Arkham Knight goes to some pretty grim places, but coddling teenagers rarely works out well. Besides, it's Batman. Teens and kids are going to play it regardless of the rating.
Candygram!
The Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask. The Legend of Zelda franchise has featured a few games whose ratings many disagree with. As tempting as it was to discuss how unnecessary it was to give Twilight Princess a T rating, Nightmare Fuel aside, Majora's Mask is arguably darker, and it got an E for everyone rating. The specter of death looms over the entire game in the form of the terrifying moon ready to crash into the world and to end everyone's lives. For every quirky and lovable character, there's a horrifying enemy or grim side quest that will keep you up at night. Thankfully, the ESRB re-rated it upon its 3DS remake to E10+. Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Speaking of E10+, the very first game to receive that rating was Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, and right from the inception of this new rating, the ESRB got it wrong. Jungle Beat is a platformer where you defeat enemies using the DK bongos, a peripheral controller that uses rhythm strikes in the shape of, naturally, a pair of bongo drums. Aside from the unusual controller, Jungle Beat isn't that different to most other Donkey Kong platformers. It was the bongos, wasn't it? This kind of backwards thinking has us believing that some of the folks at the ESRB have heads as hollow as these drums. Halo Combat Evolved. Even among most other first-person shooters at the time, Halo Combat Evolved is fairly tame. Sure, there's blood, but it's usually blink and you'll miss it, or it's green from an alien. Admittedly, the introduction of the Flood is legitimately terrifying and has elements of body horror. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have played that part when we were kids, but a full-on M rating for Halo? We could see them giving it a stronger T rating, but even that's a little much, at least by today's standards. There are more graphic moments in later games that got away with a T rating. Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Both of these games in the crossover fighting series Super Smash Bros. Have the same rating, T, and both of them are wrong. The franchise may feature cartoonish and realistic video game characters beating each other up and using fantastical violence to knock one another off stages, but that hardly warrants targeting them towards everyone 13 and up. It stars Pikachu, for crying out loud. Later games in the series have E10 Plus ratings, and while Melee is somewhat understandable given that the E10 Plus rating hadn't been invented yet when it was released, Brawl has no such excuse. We'd still skew more towards E than towards T if it were up to us. Star Fox Adventures.
Otaskuki Eve Dinosaur Planet. Ud Neokraju Ui Kimo Nekt.
The odd duck in the Star Fox franchise, Star Fox Adventures, is an adventure game made by Rare. Naturally, there are a lot of things to collect, cute animal characters and a T rating. Wait, what? This may be another instance of E10 Plus not existing yet being the culprit behind an inaccurate rating, but it doesn't make it any easier to understand. Still, even if it had a rating that reflected its gameplay, it probably wouldn't be able to escape its reputation as a subpar game with Star Fox stapled on.
Choose how many scarabs you wish to gamble.
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Still more to go. Don't get cocky.
Shadow the Hedgehog, just like its titular character, is the darker, edgier counterpart to the Sonic the Hedgehog games. To that end, it has more violence, including realistic guns, mild profanity, and a protagonist who looks like he's the Hedgehog equivalent of a goth. Now, all that seems like it'd probably be worth a T rating, though it would be borderline, and that's exactly what the folks at Sega thought, because they trimmed some of the more extreme content, like a girl getting gunned down, so that the planned T rating could pass as the newly created E10 Plus instead.
Just what was that all about?
Snatcher.
She has amnesia as well, and without any memories between the two of us, I'm afraid there was very little to base a good relationship on.
A cyberpunk adventure game made by Hideo Kojima, Snatcher features graphic imagery from severed heads to maggot-ridden corpses to dead animals. It's also set in a dystopian future and features a lot of mature subject matter, including murder and prostitution. Naturally, it's rated T for teen. Visual adventure games have often been able to deal with more mature subject matter with less scrutiny, and Snatcher is no exception. Or maybe the ESRB didn't look closely enough at it. To be fair, they weren't the only ones, since Snatcher's biggest release outside of Japan was on the Sega CD, and we all know how well that console did. If you've never heard of it, you're only proving the point harder.
Jamie!
What? I can't hear you!
Check out these other great clips from Mojo Plays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.